Hey guys, so this video is going to be kind of dark. I'm on a section of the freeway that doesn't have any street lights, and there's not going to be any for a long while. But might as well just try to talk anyways and hope everyone doesn't mind that too much. I've done this before anyways. So, there's a news story that came out, and it's got me in a little bit of a mood. And I guess I wanted to talk about it a little bit. So if you're not aware, there's this 23-year-old girl in New York City who recently went to court and took a bunch of doctors to court, sued them for like $2.2 million, I believe. And the reason is because when she was 16 years old, she thought she was a guy. She used male pronouns, all that stuff. And a psychiatrist recommended to her to get a double mastectomy, which means to cut off all the breasts, to remove all the fatty tissue in the breast. Now, this is a surgery that's not reversible. People will say, oh, you can just get, breast implants. But breast implants are just, it's like silicone gel-filled packs that they put there in place of the fatty tissue that's in there. If you want to have kids someday, your body produces milk in that fat and transports it to the nipple, allowing you to breastfeed your kids. Well, the thing is that a lot of the time when they go in, they have to cut underneath the breast, put in a pump, basically to suck out the fat, kind of like liposuction. But then when they sew it back up, there's a decent chance that you can't keep the nipples, that either they will be removed during the surgery or they won't get enough blood flow to them to survive, and they might literally just fall off. And if they fall off, it scars way more than just having them removed. So this 23-year-old was convinced by a psychologist to do this. The psychologist seemed to have, I don't know all the details, but like a lot of people assume that they basically used empathy to force the mom to do this, because otherwise the kid would be in danger of harming herself. And they convinced the mom, that this was the only right option, and the mom didn't agree, but was so terrified by the rhetoric that she agreed to it. And now the mom and the kid both regret it. The kid, now 23 years old, she's a woman now. She's now an actress, and she has gone through like all the transition stuff, and she is really upset that they've pushed this onto her instead of actually treating the dysphoria and fixing that. Instead they fed into the delusion. Now, this is really hard for me specifically, because I have a lot of people that I consider my friends who are trans or gender non-binary. People that I really cared about, like a lot. And I can't state enough that I outright loved these people. Like, I was willing to spend my life with them, but for one reason or another, we just drifted apart. For instance, there's this one girl I knew named Ariane, and we met probably online. God, how old am I now? Probably when I was 19, 20, something like that. And this is someone I really loved. And I met her in a Facebook group called Art Haven. And I saw a piece of art from her. I thought it was just so adorable. And it was a gay piece of art. And I was way more into kind of the gay stuff back then. Yeah, like I said, I've said this before, I was a bit of a leftist growing up. At least when I was a young man. And this piece of art was Benson and Mordecai from a regular show. And there was nothing sexual about it, but they basically were coming together, kind of trying to embrace each other in a hug. They weren't actually hugging. And then there were a bunch of people in a crowd kind of cheering it on. And I kind of liked the art style. I liked the way they were dressed. I liked the jewelry they were wearing. But one thing I really like about art is how people draw eyes. I really enjoy when someone puts in intricate detail into the eyes and makes them kind of realistic, or even slightly cartoony, as long as they look beautiful. I'm very passionate about art, enjoying art in general. And I'm not just talking about porn or anything. I'm talking about legitimate art. And she was a legitimate artist. She didn't draw a lot of porn. She did draw some art, but I liked her regular, non-pornographic art. And I got to talking with her in the comment section. Eventually I got her on Messenger, and we became really good friends. And she told me a lot about herself for the next... God, if I say I met her when I was 20, 21, I talked to her for almost a decade, I want to say. And frickin', even back then, she believed that she was trans. And she eventually started to call herself Judas, which, naming yourself after the guy who betrayed Jesus Christ, probably a little bit of a red flag. The thing is that her mom was super Christian and had a lot of kids. We're talking about 14 kids, something absolutely insane. So of course they grew up poor because it's very hard to support that many children. And she became kind of anti-religious, but didn't really she never really talked politics, so she never fought me on it. I still considered myself Catholic, even though I was into the gay stuff. My whole thing about that is that if God makes you, and we see homosexuality within the animal kingdom, then we shouldn't judge people who are homosexual, because maybe that's just the way God made them, and it was just the church itself, which the church is run by people, and in my mind, people are flawed, so maybe they went against God's will in that manner. And there's certain parts of the Bible where you can kind of justify it, and I don't know. I still consider myself Catholic, but my faith isn't as strong as it used to be. But I'm definitely less into the gay stuff now. Anyways, I want to have... Me and her got along really well, and we actually talked about dating, being together, getting married someday. Eventually she said that she would be willing to get married to me, and kind of even proposed to me in a way. But she said that she was now also aromantic and therefore could never love me like that, but could see herself spending the rest of her life with me and even having sex. And again, a lot of red flags, but I was young and stupid. But she would be willing to be with me because she thought that, it's okay for friends to have sexual relationship with each other, to get married, and to just like live and support each other, even if you couldn't get like that romantic connection. Again, a lot of people kind of accuse me of like being a complete moron, and kind of I am, but I'm also a very understanding person. I try to see people's point of view and see where they're coming from and kind of understand it. It wasn't until later I realized how bad all this was, especially once she actually admitted. I rejected that, by the way. I was not willing to be like that, to live with somebody who could never love me back like that. If we're going to be like sexually involved, it's kind of degenerate, I guess, and it's just not something I wanted. So I rejected it even back then. But we still stayed friends after that. Well, she eventually told me the truth about herself, and that her brother, one of her many brothers, abused her. Like, took advantage of her. You know, used her. You know what I'm talking about. Like, he did things to his own sister that should have got him locked up. And I've seen this with people I've been romantically interested in before. And people who have been abused by their fathers, by their brother, by somebody in the family, people I've made a connection with, and I have tried to convince them that they need to report their family member, even if it makes things tense, because they did things to you. Like, you can't just let this go. They could abuse other people. If they have kids, they could do it to their own kids. They could do it to your nieces and nephews. They could do it to people on the street. They could kidnap somebody someday. If they're willing to do that to their own sibling, to their own daughter, what would they do to a stranger's kid? Like, these are like Epstein level like people. They're monsters. You gotta talk to somebody, like tell somebody about this, report it, something. They're a danger. They may even still be a danger to you, even if you're an adult now. She wasn't willing to do that. And I'm like, and I've eventually realized that there are people out there who are so turned off by their own bodies because their bodies were used probably when they were way too young, and that they don't feel comfortable because sexual arousal reminds them directly of what happened to them. I mean, how do you have a relationship with somebody after your own brother's taking you and put you on? Again, these people are monstrous. And I believe that people can heal. They can actually... Sorry, your phone fell down and I kind of left you guys hanging there. I'm trying not to look at it right now. And this is actually very difficult for me to talk about, honestly. But like, you can be abused, and there are regrets I have in my life because I don't ever know if I actually ever got a real last name. Because she wanted to change her name, so she wanted to go by the name that she had chosen for herself for her online persona. And again, I never really pressed her on that. I just I was naive. I just kind of went with what she believed back then. Well, she had a lot of complicated feelings about her mother, about religion, about her family, about her body, and she wanted to go through the entire transition. And we even talked about it. It's like, if you and me were together, this is what I told her, and and we were to have kids, and she was for that. She was willing to have kids with me, before all that aromantic stuff came up. I'm like, if we have kids, I want it to be your kid, like your son, your daughter. And she was somewhat willing, but then she was like, but I don't want to pass on my genetics to anybody, which is horrifying to me. That she was so disgusted by her own genetics that she was willing to cut herself out of the gene pool. And eventually she got the double mastectomies, and because her mother and her sister, one of her sisters, died of I think it was ovarian cancer, she decided to get the full hysterectomy, everything removed. So it'd be completely impossible for her to ever have kids of her own, or to have an egg implanted inside of her. Again, this is absolutely horrifying to me that you would remove parts of your body when there's no reason to. Like, you can have yourself regularly screened for cancer, and they can remove things as soon as they discover it. But you're jumping the gun on that. Like, the odds were perhaps against her, but it is outright mutilation. And eventually I just didn't talk to her as much. She had another friend who was a female, and this female wanted to be a man as well, and went through the transition. I'm not sure how far she got. Her name was Sean, and she married a woman. I'm like, and one day we were talking, I'm just like, then I think about it. They're both biologically female, right? Isn't that kind of gay? And this is not an insult for either of us. Like to throw around the word gay. And it's just like, yeah, we are all kind of gay. In fact, I think she actually said at one point that, we're all kind of gay. And I'm like, come on, it's a little bit gay, right? And she got super offended by it. And she got really mad and was chewing me out and being super rude about it. And I'm just like, please don't try to police the things I say. Allow me to exercise what I want to say. And she blocked me. This is a woman who I gave $2,000. And again, you can call me stupid, you can call me naive, but I helped her out with rent and her car payments. I've always been way too generous, to the point where I actually am disappointed in myself. And while charity is a virtue within Catholicism, I've allowed people to take advantage of me for a long time, which is why I get so angry, so upset, and why I try my damnedest to never be taken advantage of that again. But I'm willing to try to help people who don't understand themselves or who need help here or there. I'm not willing to lend out huge amounts of money. If you need $40 or something, you have to pay me back nowadays. And if you're not willing to, then you get cut out of my life. There's a lot of people that I've literally, back when I was naive, where I didn't really watch my finances as much, there are people I've given thousands upon thousands of dollars to try to help them out. And a lot of them did pay me back eventually, but it's to the point where I'm just like, no, I can't continue being like this. I can't continue helping these people who won't help themselves. You can't save everybody. When somebody can't take care of themselves, you have to allow them to fail. If they're not willing to take out a long-term loan or a short-term loan, they're not willing to work hard enough, if they're not willing to ask their own families for help, if they're not willing to put in any effort to make their life better, just asking for money, and what's the point? What's the point of me helping them? God helps those who help themselves. If you do not put in the effort, things are never going to change. God isn't just going to come into your life and change things. You have to seek out opportunities. And when I'm listening to this girl who was 16 and she was talked into this, and now she's 23 and she regrets it. If she ever decides to have kids someday, she might be barren. Even if she's not, she might struggle to actually conceive a kid on her own, and maybe that kid will have complications during the birth, during the actual growth period until they develop, because her body was messed up. And when that kid's born, this woman may not ever be able to actually breastfeed her own child. She will have to use artificial milk, cream, get breast milk from another source. And that's also going to affect the kid's development. Make it hard for the kid. Make the kid less healthy. And maybe even the production of milk would be even worse. Maybe the production of milk would be permanently affected by that. Because her sexual organs have been outright damaged from the chemicals. And people are like, why do you care about this woman's genitalia? And it's not that. People talk about empathy all the time. Empathy. You don't have empathy for Somalis. You don't have empathy for these illegal immigrants. You don't have empathy for these people who get sent to jail for minor drug offenses. And it's like, what about destroying the entire life of a 16-year-old girl? Destroying the entire life of entire generations of people. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. Especially once you get into the abortion debate, the people who regret having an abortion, for example, and they're not able to look themselves. They have to justify it to themselves that they got rid of a kid that they think that they could have raised if they had just talked to somebody, gotten those government benefits that I actually agree with, convinced the husband, or even went to a court to get actual child support, done something, gotten help from somewhere, some organization that would be willing to help them. There's plenty of charities out there. I'm not the only one who's given over the years probably $15,000 to people who probably did deserve it. Some of those people paid me back, some didn't. And even after I've been abused, I've been used, and people took advantage of me, I still miss them sometimes. I regret what happened to them. I wish there was something I could have done that put them on a different path, where things had gone differently. But you can't change the past. You can only learn from it. I can only invest my money to try to make back what I lost, to try to make something of myself, to go to school, to serve my country, to help people in the future, to try to convince the younger generation that they need to not listen to the propaganda. They have to make their own decisions and see the world for how it actually is and not how they want to perceive it. I don't want to put an ideology into their head. I want them to become a critical thinker, to see the corruption in the world and the horrible things people have done, to not just blindly believe propaganda, and to actually look at allegations that have merit. And I don't know how successful I have been. I feel like I could stand to have thousands of subscribers by now. Thousands of people that I can help. A lot of people who would watch me, of course, could just already agree with me. But I would like to have people on here who don't know what to think about things. And they actually have a reasonable person to listen to understand. So they can see where the world, how the world works, and to think critically about it. Because I don't want people to go through the same things that I have, to see the same things I have, to learn from my mistakes. And there are a lot of people who will make new mistakes. Perhaps not the same mistakes I have, or somebody will watch this and be like, oh yeah, I did something similar. Like, maybe I should have cut these people out of my life a long time ago. I should have stopped talking to them. Maybe I should have argued more against it. Maybe I should have done something to tell them that this is not what's good for you. But I tried, and I couldn't do it. For all I know, the people that have left me, and they have all left me, I'm willing to let them come talk to me again if they ever decide to come talk to me. I'm willing to hear them out. But I don't even know if they're still alive. They could be in the grave already, and I would never know. And that's upsetting to me. I could always try to see, but no. If they clearly wanted their space, I give them their space. I try not to, ask other people to check on them or anything like that. I don't want to know, I guess. But anyways, that's just something about me. Perhaps I shouldn't use the names that they use for themselves. But it is what it is. If somebody identifies them, I don't know. I just feel bad. It's like Jedi, I guess. Where the Jedi just realize that, oh, it's okay to use self-defense, or it's okay to try to help somebody, but you can't help everybody. You're a peacekeeper. Sometimes you can't convince someone of something. You just have to dispense justice in some way. I don't know. Now, I'll have my personal set of justice, and I don't encourage anybody to enact justice, but to act in a just way. And to treat yourself well, and not let yourself be used and abused in any way. Maybe people who are abused think it's kind of a myth that they will go on to abuse other people. But there are people who definitely have been abused and then abused me in return, taking advantage of my kindness, of my care, of my feelings. And I wish I had spent more of my time talking to people who actually were willing to put in more of an effort for me as well. But anyways, I'll leave it there, guys. I'll stop talking about my sob story, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.